in my opinion, one of the best altcoins to own for the next couple of years. I'm not talking about just day to day, because you can find those on Binance, and they're going to outperform Ethereum by a long shot. But what I'm talking about here is, why is Ethereum from a fundamental perspective going to be a coin that's going to be worth way more than what it's at right now? So currently Ethereum's at a $28.37 billion market cap. You know, if you look at that market cap as a whole, it's huge. For Ethereum to do better, it actually has to basically, you know, do like a 10x or something. And even at a 10x, it's going to be valued at a $280 billion project. So if you're talking about the runway that we have for Ether, it's got a long way to go. You know, most people have that argument that the bigger that token is, the harder it is to go higher. But I don't think people are understanding, you know, scale here a little bit. A $1 billion token versus $28 billion token in its current form right now, it tells you that there is a huge gap in terms of development. Something that's valued at 1 billion or less and doesn't have as many developers shouldn't be really at a 28 billion. But the fact that the market is valuing it at 20 billion right now, with a low of basically, if you take a look at the price of at around $80 at some point, $84, you know, and you cut this number, let's say, by half. I mean, Ethereum was only valued at about, if you take a look at the supply, Ethereum was only valued at about less than, you know, 20 billion at one point. So the point of this is that I think that even though the market cap's high for Ether, I think that there's going to be a lot more potential, and I'll tell you why in a couple of reasons. Now, from a historical ROI perspective, Ethereum has gone up 111% just the last three months. For the last 3 years, Ether is up 1,846%. So just put that in perspective, considering the fact that we pull back from a high of 1250 at some point. Because if you take a look at it from a longer perspective, let's talk about 17 as an example. I mean, Ether pretty much just bounced off that major low. So either this coin itself is going to go to zero at some point, or it's going to surpass its all-time high. And one of the things I really like about it is the fact that it has low inflation. I mean, if you think about proof of stake coins, the more they yield, the more coin supply you're going to have, which is going to put pressure on price overall. But they're expecting a 0.5 to a 2% proof of stake emission, which means that after approximately 100 coins, which we already have here, they're going to be moving towards an inflation of about 2%, 0.5. Now, I know most people are going to say, how can a coin go up in price if you're constantly inflating the coin? And the only thing I can think of is that if the coin acquires some sort of value that exceeds the inflation cost. And so if you take a look at it, you know, they're still trying to figure out the number here as far as how much to inflate the coin, but it's pretty minuscule in terms of the grander scheme of things. So I don't expect this to be a huge issue. The other thing I also think that a lot of people have been talking about Ethereum is the fact that it's the only altcoin out there that has, in my opinion, the credibility that the others do not have yet, especially in this market. And the first piece of news coming out is about Ernst & Young using the Nightfall code for private transactions on the Ethereum network. Now, we've been talking about this privacy issue for a long time in the past. Fact remains is most of the smart contract platforms out there need some sort of privacy feature enabled in. And so if you don't have that zero knowledge proof privacy piece, people are not going to use it from an enterprise perspective. And so I think that Ethereum is doing very good here, and the fact that they've already audited this and using the code on GitHub shows to me that in the next couple of years, Ethereum is probably going to be used in many different ways than not, and not just for ICOs. The second thing is also this idea of collectibles. We talked about CryptoKitties a couple of years ago, like 2 years ago, and how people were all over CryptoKitties. And the reason why it was important at that time was because it was one of the best use cases for Ethereum now, and it was not probably the most efficient way of using it because it kind of clogged everything up. But people are using this for virtual goods and collectibles. So Ethereum has a really good use case in terms of that domain. And people are still doing that because somebody just paid over $100,000 to purchase a collectible virtual Formula One car. And to me, that's application already done. The other one is going to be JP Morgan's zero knowledge proof of protocol So JP Morgan has created a zero knowledge proof protocol called Tether. And what it does is that it's going to be based on their proprietary Quorum blockchain. And again, going back to this idea on ETH, if you have an open source project like Ethereum and you've got JP Morgan kind of dabbling in, investing in their own piece, it's only a matter of time before they're going to combine both. So when I look at JP Morgan and I look at Ernst & Young, I look at the bigger macro perspective of how Ether is going to get launched and how it's going to get used. To me, this seems like a no-brainer. Once in a while, you're going to end up having a use case application for these, and it's just going to blow off the demand for Ethereum in the short term. So when you're starting to see these type of things, I definitely feel that we have a lot of wind behind that sail for Ether to really do extremely well in the next 2 to 5 years. Also, the second one is the FINRA approval for the Grayscale Ethereum Trust. Now, Grayscale has been one of the largest, if not the most aggressive, ETF trust creation platforms for institutional investors for a long time. And the fact that FINRA just went ahead and approved listing Grayscale's ETH for accredited investors joining the BTC Trust and having a ticker symbol further solidifies Ethereum's dominance over the altcoins in the short term. Now, you don't really see this with some of the other altcoins. And the reason why you don't see it is because Ethereum has historically been it. That's what started the ICO market. That's what started the 17 altcoin run. And because of that, I think that there is this label that's being created around Ether as being the secure network that probably is not a scam, that is not going to run away with your money, that is going to be a legitimate institutional product. Now, this to me is the second part. Back in May 22nd, there was an article that came out about Ethereum's foundation to plan funding for it. And what they're going to be doing is that they're going to be dedicating about approximately $30 million towards keystone projects, with about $19 million towards ETH 2.0, $8 million for ETH 1.0, and $3 million for education and development. So, they're holding about 0.6% of the circulating ETH out there. That's valued about $164 million. And they've already have plans on how they're going to be developing that, using that money in. Now, anytime a foundation or any sort of project decides to dump in approximately $30 million pumped into the market, you can automatically assume that there's going to be a lot of support for that platform in the future. All right, guys. Well, this is just some of the things I've been looking at in terms of the overall metrics. Now, I'm going to be doing a more of a formal research and analysis on this as far as where I think Ethereum is going to go, really, as far as the developments in the community and the tech in there. But if you follow these projects closely and don't just follow Bitcoin or any of these little altcoins that are coming up new on these exchanges, you're beginning to see that the writing is already on the wall. It's just a matter of time before ETH goes back to its 1,250 range. Now, is that going to come tomorrow? No. Is that going to come, within the next couple of days? Absolutely not. It's going to take a while because the market is still digesting the valuation for these projects. And I think that Ethereum is going to be one of those where people are going to look back and they're going to say, man, I wish I had picked some up at 260 because now it's, running at about 1,000, 2,000. Now, can Ethereum go back down to $80? That's always within the realm of possibility. And I'm not saying that, we're going to be, it's a moonshot from this point forward. But what I am saying is that Ethereum has such a great value proposition in terms of the smart contract aspect of it that no other project has come even close. And the number of developers on the actual market, on this actual project, is astounding. There is just way more development in there. And if you take a look at GitHub, in terms of how many lines of code were added in just the last 90 days, it's already 150,000 lines of code. And over the past year, it's about 477,000 lines of code. So in terms of development, guys, it's pretty clear what's actually happening. Now, the one thing I also want to emphasize is the fact that Ethereum has a very large number of fees coming in. They are for on-chain transaction volumes on a 24-hour fees. They are basically pulling in about $177,000 worth. In terms of transaction volumes and in terms of transaction costs as well, they're operating at about a $1 billion worth of transaction volumes that's coming in. And so if you take a look at the fees that they're generating, I mean, it's already on a 24-hour, they're generating about $100,000 worth of fees. It just begs the question that's going to scale eventually even higher. So my bet here, guys, is Ethereum is going to be here for a long time. Now, if you take a look at the price pattern, yeah, we did have a massive pullback from its all-time high at $1,431 back on January 13, 2018. And you know, that's the price and that's the cycle that we end up with. But again, looking back at a 3-year and looking at 2017's ROI, it's 9,181.70%. In 2016 it was 756%. So just kind of put things a little bit in perspective, and you're beginning to see hopefully what I am seeing in terms of the infrastructure for the smart contract platform. Alright guys, well, if you enjoyed this clip, make sure you like and subscribe. Also make sure that you join the Patreon group, because we will be talking a little bit more about these fundamentals and how they all kind of fit in. I do have a lot of pieces here that I want you guys to really see as far as what's actually going on with some of these newer projects. But you know, as far as my understanding is concerned here, I'm always going to be you know, pushing for projects that I think are definitely worth looking into. And so do your own research, and again, you know, keep abreast with some of the new news that's coming out. CryptoBot out. If you would like to know more about this video and specifically anything else that is not on YouTube, join me today and join my community at patreon.com/CryptoBot, where I provide exclusive fundamental analysis, technical analysis, and anything that I can come up with in my research that is not available in the public. This is actually a great way to connect with me and everybody else on trying to see exactly what is happening in the crypto market and how that can help you get better and being educated in this space. I really put a lot of time and effort into this, as I want you to be successful along with everybody else in the crypto space.